We're on to week 8 of the NFL season, and it kind of feels like the halfway point of the year, even though it's technically not anymore. But we got really a lot of late breaking news. Jaden Daniels might be playing today. We got a lot to dig through, but of course, we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to look at the projections and the ownership projections via Stochastic. We're going to optimize some lines through the solver, look at the solver sims. We're going to hop over to Stochastic, look at their sims. We're going to go QB by QB to find out the best simulated lineups, to find the final takes for week 8 here. Let's get into it. Of course, got the projections locked and loaded here. It's not Splash Play NBA. I don't know why that's even up. But hey, Splash Play NBA coming on Monday as well for me. Subscribe to the @Splash Play NBA channel as well. But no, we are firmly NFL today. Breece Hall, your top projected player of the main slate. That is held up over the course of the weekend. Took a little bit of time to get the ownership and the projections updated yesterday, but got my matchup sheet out there. So for all you guys who are paying members, check that out if you want to play along at home during the course of this stream. Breece Hall looks like chalk today. Hard for him not to be chalk in a matchup against New England where we don't really expect a ton of competition. Jets, 24 implied points. New England, 17 implied points. 7-point dogs at home. So Breece Hall, good chalk play. Feel like a lot of lines this week will be built around Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, and the man in the thumbnail is very excited to be on the thumbnail, Javonte Williams. He's stoked to be actually getting touches again and people not hating him, I am sure. Number 2 projected player right now is Lamar Jackson at an $8K flat salary. Because of the way the pricing works this week, even with Lamar being as good as he's been this year, do anticipate him being not the highest owned player in the world against Cleveland. That said, if you expect Jameis to pull his weight more, Lamar becomes a more appealing play. The Zay Flowers banged up, going to be a game time decision, it looks like, with him working out pregame to see if he can go. Joe Burrow in a match against Philadelphia came up a lot with the sims on Friday. We'll see how much he comes up again. Top ROI player based on all the early simulation data out there. Burrow in a match against Philadelphia in games where the other offense is pushing him. Burrow's hit his ceiling. Burrow's been really efficient overall. So Burrow, a very reasonable play today with that 19.99 projection. Just shy. He's 1 cent shy of $20 here in terms of his projection. Bo Nix, 19.98. His projection came down a little bit over the course of the weekend. Still a top value play here. 3.6x value expected on DraftKings today. And J.K. Dobbins, a 19.9 projection for him, rounding up a little bit there. A strong play going against a New Orleans team that is lacking a lot of talent offensively. Defensively also has not been able to stop the run of the year. That's what your run out looks like for your top 5 players right now. Checking the chats. We got a guy, Steven, here, not answering this. GMs, though, appreciate all you guys being here, of course. Fine Sunday morning, and I think an interesting slate today because of the fact that we have some players coming in, materially changing games. My sweet boy Jaden, if he's playing, looks like it. The exact quote about Jaden this morning, by the way, was, "That guy's one tough son of a bitch." Is what that's apparently an anonymous team official said to one of the NFL national reporters. So I'm excited for my boy Jaden. I think also as a tournament play, Vegas Total doesn't support it right now. Actually, it's interesting to me. Chicago, Washington, and we'll talk more about projections in a moment. Chicago, Washington, the total actually went down a point overnight, even though the announcement came that, Jaden expected to play. So a little bit odd to see the total of 22 points for Washington. Surprised me given the fact if Jaden were to play, the team has beat their implied totals by like 10 every week for the most part. Tough defense match against Chicago for sure. They've been a good team, but I think that game, like, it hasn't been on people's radar all week because everybody assumed Jaden wasn't going to go. Him being in now is going to create more production on the Chicago side for Caleb. Him being in is going to create more production, obviously, for the Washington side than he would have had Marcus Mariota giving. So in this spot, to me, I do think Jaden's one player that will go completely unrecognized. His projection this week, all the way down here at 17.7. So lower projected than you would think for a guy who last week everybody wanted to run to play. Top QBs overall, you got Lamar number 1, Burrow number 2, Nix number 3. We saw these guys. Jalen Hurts number 4, the other side of the Philadelphia-Cincinnati game. Again, expect that game to be competitive throughout. So if you do expect that, should be a good game to go to either QB in. Jordan Love, a match against Jacksonville. You need to see somebody in Jacksonville pressing a little bit there. No Travis Etienne, it looks like again. So you'll get better running back play theoretically. But for Jordan Love, for him to hit his ceiling against the Jacksonville defense, that does suck. You need to see some scoring from the Jacksonville side to really press him into action, one would think. Top RB plays, let's go there. Got a very obvious chalk slate this week, I think, with the RBs. Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, we talked about them. Joe Mixon, a pay-up option here at 7,700. Another rock-solid play. I think he does pick up a little more ownership than you would think because of the fact he's been good basically every time he's played a full game. People will check those box scores on DraftKings and go, Mixon's great. Why are we not playing him? I think he ends up being 10 to 20% owned to be my guess. Derrick Henry, every week, same thing as well. People will pay that price tag because they know you're getting guaranteed production. $8,100 salary for him. If I had to guess, he also gets to that 10 to 20% range. Saquon Barkley, a 17.6 projection, really doesn't look good value-wise. But another guy I think could pull jam in a competitive game against Cincinnati. And frankly, I do think Saquon probably gets played the least. at the high dollar backs. Saquon, not one of my favorite guys. But the workload is so good with him that I would say he's a pretty credible tournament play at 8,300. If you can get there, got to play some dog shit receivers if you do that. Top wide receivers right now, as of 9:01 a.m. here. Of course, we start a few minutes before 9 o'clock to get the jump. Everybody else. Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill against Arizona. I pointed out some of the worrying stuff here on the premium video on Friday. So Tyreek's workload just not anywhere near as good as it was last year. Last year, he was getting an intended touch about 30% of the time he was on the field. This year, we're looking at about 14% of the time he's getting an intended touch. Target route run rate also down to 26%. He's kind of suffering from the same thing a lot of the elite receivers are, where they're not 30% target route run rate guys. They're just getting a little bit less work. For Tyreek, look, it's a great matchup against Arizona. Having Tua back helps. Really efficient matchup for going against the Arizona defense. They're giving up 0.15 EPA per drop back, 0.15 EPA per pass. They're not good at anything. 86% catchable ball rate is what they're giving up as well. So, it's a soft matchup. But for Tyreek, just the role is not the same, and I don't know that this will be to expect it to be the same as it was last year, given the fact he's going to be this hyper uber chalk. So if you play him, I think a lot of lines today will include Dobbins, Javonte, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill. If I had to guess, that's sort of the core of what is chalky today. So playable for sure. Nice price tag on him, but I think a lot of people are rolling in with Tyreek Hill this week, expecting last year's Tyreek Hill. And he's just not the same guy this year. He's just not, the usage isn't the same. And it's honestly been one of the worst rollouts of usage for him so far. But obviously the numbers come down a little bit because of the bad QB play for the last month. So balance it out accordingly. But I would say for Tyreek, I just would want to put the caveat out there that the role is not the same right now. But, it is weighted a little bit by a month of, Tua bleeding from his ears. His brain doesn't work that well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, your number 2 projected wide receiver. Jamar Chase, number 3. Both guys here, different kinds of matchups. Yes, Hill will be playing. Amon-Ra, for him, good matchup against Tennessee on paper in terms of the fact that Tennessee doesn't do a lot. Flat 0 EPA per dropback, flat 0 EPA allowed per pass. Of course, expected points added metric that tells you how much above average a player is playing or a team is allowing, basically, in terms of the defensive matchup. So for Amon-Ra, Tennessee keeping it competitive is my big concern for him. Lions are passing over reputation in the red zone a lot more, so that should help out Amon-Ra. But his price tag, I feel like he mostly gets underowned on the slate. So if somehow Detroit, Tennessee were competitive, Amon-Ra could be a sneaky play. I don't know how it would be, but if somehow it were competitive, it would be a sneaky play for sure. Jamar Chase, I think a less sneaky play. His workload hasn't been as good as T. Higgins, but T. Higgins now trending towards being out. So that's actually one projection update that could be important here. T. Higgins, a late questionable tag for a quad injury. The news this morning seems like he's closer to doubtful and not playing. If he's out, Jamar Chase, I expect Jamar Chase to play better than he did earlier in the year without T. Higgins, where I think the contract stuff was still hanging over his head. He wasn't as motivated. Chase has been getting out targeted by T. Higgins overall in the red zone as well. So for Jamar Chase, I think it's actually a net positive to not have Higgins out there today. Would expect that he might become chalk potentially because his projection to move up probably a couple points, maybe even a 21. So if he moves to 21, he's going to be a better value play than all these guys and also higher projected. So I'd expect Jamar Chase to become chalk if we get the official news that T. Higgins is going to be out. A.J. Brown, the counterpoint in that Philadelphia-Cincinnati game, high dollar points for these guys. Really, if you are going to stack Philadelphia-Cincinnati, you're paying a really premium price tag there. Certainly worth it for tournaments, but I don't think you're sneaking up on anybody despite the high price tag, especially with, with Higgins being out. Chase is going to become really chalky. Going to be a lot of people driving towards the $8,500 ownership for him. Drake London, 7,200 in a match against Tampa Bay, where the question is, can Tampa Bay be competitive on their end? They have Trey Palmer. They have McMillan, who they talked up throughout the year. They have Shepard, who they talked up a little bit lately. Veteran receiver who we've seen spike before. So possible that Tampa Bay keeps up their side of the equation, but Atlanta really only going to pass at a high level when they're being pushed at a high level by the opposing offense. That's obviously a lot of teams, but I think there's some teams more pronounced. And for some of the ones we talked about today, like Cincinnati, like Atlanta, I think it is really important to note that you kind of need a bring back for those teams to really be hitting their ceiling because they have to just be pushed to a level of production beyond what they would expect. Tight ends. Look at them here. And we'll look at defense real fast too. Njoku, your top projected player right now. Jameis Winston targeted him fairly well. It's basically him and Jerry Jeudy as the top targets when Winston came in last week. Njoku caught the touchdown as well from Winston. That was pretty much a ball where Njoku barely ran a route, just ran to the back of the end zone. Winston just threw it up for him. He went up and got it. It was really a stupid play. It's like a play that a college team would do to exploit an athlete that's better than everybody else in the opposing team. But that's what Njoku got last week. I think he's a solid play at 5,100. Travis Kelce, the workload for DeAndre Hopkins seems like it would cut into a little bit. There is the narrative, though, floating around today, which I think we have to talk about. The Patrick Mahomes revenge. I didn't mention it on Friday. The Raiders talked a lot of shit about Mahomes over the course of the offseason. They've done it before as well. They brought a Mahomes Kermit the Frog with Mahomes wig and jersey on into practice. They were playing with the puppet and saying things like, I'm a bitch or whatever. The fuck they were doing. I'm sure better puppet, actually no, probably worse puppet voices than I'm doing. But they were doing basically like Kermit voices with the puppet, and Mahomes is like, it'll be taken care of when it's taken care of. I don't know if it really matters because Mahomes hasn't pushed his upside. It's more the play calling than it is Mahomes' own penchant for, imposing his will upon people. But if he were to impose his will upon a team, Vegas would be the team. So you stack up your Chiefs. Kelce, fine enough option. Hopkins probably not going to have a full run of routes. The expectation is he'll probably play like Amari Cooper did last week. Runs a good amount of routes, basically does well enough with them, but probably isn't getting enough of the volume overall. Brock Bowers at number 3. Competitive game against the Chiefs here. Have to score a lot of points. Brock Bowers targeted more than anybody else, as I've mentioned since the moment that this happened. Expect him to basically become the Raiders wide receiver 1. Jacoby Myers may be back today, which would impact Bowers a little bit, but still think Bowers keeps getting a similar workload with similar lack of touchdown expectation based on the role. Trey McBride at number 4. K-Dot at number 5. K-Dot a good value here, but not seemingly as chalky as it looked like before because Njoku's now become a much better projected play overall. But K-Dot, I would guess, Hand Builder's going to put K-Dot in a lot of lineups. Optimizer's probably going to put K-Dot in a lot of lineups, so I think he won't be sneaking up on anybody, even though he looks like less of a compelling play numbers-wise than he did before. And last but not least here, the defenses, because Lord knows we're not looking up kickers. Ravens D against Cleveland. Jameis drops back a lot, has a penchant for errors. Ravens D, I would say certainly in play at 3,400 if you want to pay up that much for a defense. Jets 3,500 against New England. Drake May going to drop back a lot. Not accurate. Good defense. It's going to be going up against them a lot. Certainly going to be around the ball. Pass deflection rate for the Jets is pretty good overall. Jets deflecting passes at a 5% clip on short throws of under 20 air yards. And when they're deep balls thrown, they have a 17% pass deflection rate. If I had to guess, that's where things could get actually, no, you know what? It's wrong. No, it's actually 11% and 10%. Sorry, I was reading the wrong splits. It's 11% on short throws, 10% on deep throws. Those are both really solid rates across the board. Pass deflections, poor 10 interceptions. So when you have Drake May, who's inaccurate, throwing only, honestly, better than I would have thought for him, a 64% catchable ball rate, but really not great downfield, not great under pressure, especially a negative 1.2 EPA under pressure. I think that's where the Jets defense is a pretty good shot to turn something against him. So I don't think the price tag is that appealing. If I were going to pay up that much, I'd probably go Broncos or Ravens. But Jets D going against Drake May, again, it's just hard to ignore, given that Drake May is probably not ready for a matchup like the Jets yet. Chiefs D, Lions D, Broncos D. All the expensive Ds are your highest projected, but value-wise, we're also still getting the top price defenses. So you're getting a little more Falcons in with Baker, obviously not having his weapons available for the most part. You're getting Ravens, Jets, Patriots, Bills up top here. So pretty good mix. Reddick is playing. Doesn't really matter. One player who's been out for, the first 8 weeks of the season and didn't practice all year, probably not the one that's going to be a material change for a defense. All right. Ownership projections. I think breaking the bank sounds more like depositing and losing money. I think breaking the bank is not what you want to do. Break the bonk. You do that. Oh, National Tight End Day. Great. George Kittle. Line up your George Kittle shares. All right. Breece Hall, your top owned player right now. Tyreek Hill. So Breece Hall, 48% overall projected by Stochastic. Let's note the numbers. Tyreek Hill, 31%. That feels about right as well. Javonte Williams, 26%. Again, feels right. It's a soft matchup. This one to me would not shock me if, honestly, he got as chalky as Breece Hall. People certainly have some reservations about Javonte, but the role has really solidified for him in the last few weeks. Even with Audric Estime coming in, Estime's taking like less than 5 snaps a game. McLaughlin's work hasn't been that good. Really do think that Javonte's a good play. Honestly, I just think Javonte's a good play. I'm not in love with Javonte as a player himself, but I think he's been looking better visually. The workload's been good. I actually think that honestly, Breece, and Dobbins, I just think are good chalk this week, which is how we die. Of course, chalk is supposed to look good. The reason that plays become chalk is they, on paper, look like the best plays of the week. But the RBs, I really just don't feel that bad about any of the RB plays. I think Tyreek feels the worst to me. I just worry about that workload being as much as it seems. He's really, I think, got to be efficient in less than 10 targets, and that's not, it's not really the vibe I get with where he is. Like, it shocked me to see Tyreek's actually a negative EPA per target guy this year. Some of it, could just be the offense obviously going to shit with all the guys they've had out there. Like Huntley wasn't the answer. Obviously Boyle wasn't the answer. Like Skylar Thompson wasn't good. So that could certainly be a big part of it, but he just wasn't even before when Tua was playing. Still wasn't really the full Tyreek breadth of things either. So I think Tyreek could be the chalk that worries me the most, and not to a lesser extent. But I think the RBs, I feel pretty good about the top 3 RBs. K. Dotton, 25.5% ownership. If it were a third of the field, it wouldn't shock me. David Njoku, 25.4%. I think that feels about right for him. And Dobbins at 24 here. So a lot of concentrated plays here. In fact, these lineups, I would imagine you might actually see this be the core of like the lineups overall. Breece Hall, Tyreek, Javonte, Otton, Njoku, Dobbins. You couldn't get an Otton and the 3 RBs. But honestly, I think you'll see some double tight end with Njoku and Otton. I think you'll see 3 RBs with Javonte, Breece, and Dobbins. One of them in the flex. Lad McConkey, I don't see getting this highly owned, but that's that. John in direct leverage over Rika Dotton. I wouldn't buy into John this week after he just had a big game. Think that would be a bit of a false flag. In a matchup too, where it's a different QB and they fed him differently. But I mean, you certainly can take it. Like John, who's going to be out there enough, but I don't think this is a week to do that, to be honest. I think we answered that one. Bo Nix rostered more than Jameis seems unlikely. The Jameis one's tough because like a lot of the content this week, like I was listening to the Neil Orfield Scott Barrett stream on Fantasy Points, of course, place I do a column every week, which I should link in the chat if you want to see it. My week 8 prop betting column, if you want to get some action in last minute, go check that out. Promo code SPAGS25 if you want to get all the data and their premium content. Link in the chat right now. So they were talking about it on the show that they did yesterday. Scott Barrett and Neil Orfield were like, Jameis, like, I don't know. Like Neil's like, I think Jameis is real sneaky. I think Jameis is a big play. They got the Swolecast. They talked about it. It's like every piece of content I've seen this week. And I watched a lot in the background. I think JM's went and talked about it. Like people are talking about Jameis a little bit more, and I'm not really sure how that goes. Jameis's ownership right now, projected for 4%. The thing that worries me the most about Jameis, and look, sometimes we do, I would say ignore team totals, but we certainly pay a little bit less attention to them. 18.3 implied points for Cleveland, even though I do think it's a pretty good matchup against Baltimore. I think of a 0.11 EPA per dropback, 0.11 EPA per pass, overall 83% catchable ball rate. These are all in the green in my sheet. Of course, my sheet color-coded with all the data points so you know what's a good part to the target, what's not. I think it's a good matchup, like based on the analytics. But when you see that low of a team total here, and you get the sense that people are going to be playing Jameis a little bit more than they should, I think people are going to play Jameis and Tillman a lot. I think the box score game for Tillman last week is going to put people on the sense a little bit more. But Judy got targeted more when Jameis came in, so I don't know how you balance that out. But basically, Tillman took over Amari Cooper's role like 1-to-1, got basically the exact route tree and workload Amari was getting. But I think people play that a little bit more. So I don't know if Jameis is really a good tournament play. I like Jameis a couple of years ago when he was on Tampa Bay. Jameis was the guy I was like playing with fucking, who's the dude? Oh, it was Justin Watson at that point. Justin Watson filling in for Brashad Perriman and Mike Evans at one point. I'm like, just play anybody with him because Jameis is throwing for 500 air yards a game. I don't know if we get that full Jameis, and I don't know. Like, you got to remember, Cleveland didn't want to play him. They wanted to play Thompson Robinson over him. He just got hurt. So I'm not sure that we get good Jameis here. And in fact, I mean, if Ravens D weren't chalky, I'd say Ravens D makes more sense to get direct leverage against it. No Knicks ownership, I presume we mean Bo Nix, is being driven through cash. He's a cash QB this week. Yeah, I mean, I think Bo Nix should be. I think there'll be some Jameis in cash games as well. Yeah, I would think that's fair. What else we're looking at here? Low owned guys, a lot of them. Because the ownership is so concentrated, there's some guys that make sense. DeAndre Swift, under 10% ownership. We know he's got big upside. Ingram as kind of the fulcrum point, the pushback point. If Green Bay is going to have a competitive game on offense, Jacksonville needs to push back. Ingram's probably one of the guys to push back. He's under 10% owned and won't be owned very much because of how concentrated you're going to have that Njoku and that Otton chalk at tight end. Higgins, he's obviously going to not have 9%, and it's going to come down. Kelsey under 9%, Trey Palmer 9%. I do think Trey Palmer, a credible play. The only legit outside guy in that Bucs rotation left, probably takes over most of the Mike Evans route tree, if not, the full target share. Mike Evans got Garrett Wilson, Bowers under 10%. Price tag's a little bit tough, but I get it. Jaden Reed, Jahmyr Gibbs, certainly a credible play, though Montgomery should be back to full health this week, you would hope. Lots of guys under 10% that are credible, and Tillman here at 6%. I will say I don't buy this. I think Tillman gets to 15 just because of the fact he had that big box score game. And I think nobody really in content this week is going to I didn't see anybody poke holes in Tillman. I think everybody mostly was like, Tillman, great. So I think people are going to follow that a little bit more. But let's see what the top 25 lineups give us first on the solver, just to see what the pure projection math drives people to. You can see ETR's projections on the screen right now. Of course, get them for yourself. Solver, link in the description, and get ETR with it. And if you get ETR and the solver, it'll basically populate ETR projections in the solver for you. Top protected players according to ETR, they have Lamar number 1, Jaden Daniels at number 2. So big discrepancy with Stochastic. ETR giving Jaden Daniels a pretty big boost, and as a result, he might come up a little bit more. Jalen Hurts number 3, Jamar Chase number 4. It seems like they've already counted for T. Higgins being out. They sure did. So Jamar Chase, about a 21.5 fantasy point projection without Higgins, according to ETR. Breece Hall, 21 points. Jordan Love, 21 points. Those are your top projected players. Ownership, according to ETR, they've got Breece only at 35, so not quite as much as Stochastic. 35 to 40 feels about right for that. K. Dotton, they've got at 31. Tyreek, they have at 29. Yoshivas at 25. And David Njoku at 24. A little bit lower on Javonte, a little bit higher on Achane, it looks like, is the ETR ownership right now. Let's look at these top 20. Actually, you know what? I have boosts on. Hold on. I got to take off these boosts so we know just what the math is giving us. That is the goal here. It's basically the way projections work. People get driven to players more than they realize because just how the projections align. So we're trying to find this first portion of things here on the solver. So your cash game lineup as of right now, Eddie was right. Bo Nix cash game QB according to the solver here at 9:18 a.m. on the East Coast. This should be the cash game lineup you play. Bo Nix, Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Andre Yoshivas, David Njoku, Cade Otton, and Raven. So you did get the double tight end here. You're getting 2 Bengals without the QB with it. You're getting a Bo Nix stacked up with Javonte and Breece Hall chalk looking good. You're fading Dobbins chalk. I guess the one surprise here, but everything else seems pretty aligned here. Tyreek chalk. There you go. In this set of 25 lineups, which again has no boosts on it, just basically saying what the projections have overall. Tyreek Hill comes in 100% of lineups. Breece Hall in 100% of lineups. If you fade those 2 guys today, you're going to be away from a pretty big portion of the field. Again, I have no real issue with Tyreek Hill, but when you see this much ownership, the fact that he gets into every single lineup with projections, it's when you start to ask questions about Tyreek. And, you know, I have questions about Tyreek, like Tyreek on the year. Mentioned again, overall, they only try to give him a touch 14% of the time. That's not that great. So again, compared to last year, it's about half of where he was last year. Also, negative 0.06 EPA per target. For comparison's sake, Jalen Waddle dealing with the same QB situation, 0.4 EPA per target. So one guy's been good, one guy's been bad. I'm not a big Waddle guy, but I think you want to poke holes in Tyreek. This is how you do it. Tyreek, 6.7 targets a game, not that much. 12.7 air yards per target. Again, not that much. He's also been really bad in the deep ball this year, a negative 0.05 EPA on throws to 20-plus air yards. So we're not looking at the same players last year, and I think that's the one thing that whether Tyreek hits or not today, it's important to go into the slate knowing that Tyreek is not the same guy as last year, but this week he's going to be treated like he is. So it's 1 point to try to maybe consider pivoting away from. You're getting 60% of these lineups with Bo Nix and Javonte Williams. 32% have Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton. 32% have Achane and Tyreek Hill. And the rest of them come up occasionally, but not quite as often. And in game stack-wise, 20% have Drake London and Cade Otton. Nothing too noteworthy there. Let's run a 250 set here. Just see what the solver thinks the top sim lineups are. And we will hop over to Stochastic next. Let me put my boosts back on here. Let's see what we get. All right, 250 lineups. And guys, if you appreciate this content, number one, please subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Of course, I do these videos every Monday every day besides Wednesday, basically at 11 a.m. And I do slate previews for showdowns. Of course, on Mondays and Thursdays, the main slate. On Fridays at 9 a.m. on Sundays as well. And this Monday as well, coming up tomorrow, I'll be doing the same thing for NBA. So basically what I'll be doing starting at 4 p.m. Eastern every day is what it's going to be. I'm going to go through, do the same process for NBA slates. So looking at projections, ownership, data. I forgot to put on fucking boost. Hold on. Got to increase our variance here to make this go faster. But for NBA, going to be doing this every day. So please, link in the chat right now. If you want to just look it up yourself, at Splash Play NBA. But coming up starting tomorrow, every day at 4 p.m. We'll do this for the slate. We'll then around 4:30 look at the unabated props market. So I'll be checking their data, the new unabated projections putting out by Justin Fan. Of course, one of the greatest guys, I think, in terms of the news and update stuff behind the scenes. Previously at Underdog, previously at Fantasy Labs. Now he is at Unabated doing the same thing. So that'll be what I'll be doing here in partnership with those guys and Stochastic. I'll be doing basically a run through everything starting tomorrow for NBA. So please come check that out, support that. I'm try to get that channel hitting the ground running as much as possible. But couldn't put it on this channel because this is an NFL channel and I don't want to fuck up the YouTube algorithm, which is unfortunately part of the considerations here. Would have been logical to put it all in one place, but I'm trying to build a new channel instead. We'll see how that goes. Pray for me. Please subscribe. Subscribe to both. This one too. Let's get this one to 5K. Let's get that one to 1K. Herbie +3. Wow. Yeah. I mean, look, you're just getting some variance here, but that is a high projection for Herbert. Look, New Orleans is not good right now. So I would get why it's coming up, even though it would not be my preferred play. You're seeing some of the stuff coming in here. Yeah, we're not forcing stacks. We're just giving a boost to the players with the QB for the most part. So that's how it's coming up in these lineups here. You're still not usually going to get unstacked QBs, which you don't really want anyway. I appreciate that historical anomaly. Subscribe. They'll play NBA DFS. Be doing prop content. Yeah, so basically the last 15 minutes of every video are going to be me doing the prop betting markets with unabated data. So that'll be a big part of it. Be building underdog pick'ems or, like at least giving you the tools to do it along with everything else. Let's sim these out in the slant. Sorry, Toby, not answering these. Appreciate the sentiment. You pick two. Have fun with it. All right, we're gambling here. We're not worried about your office league. No disrespect to Toby, but come on, Toby. Disrespect to Toby the same way Michael Scott disrespect his Toby, I think, is how we're looking at it. Your top ROI lineup. This is not what I would have expected. Mason Rudolph lineup here. Mason Rudolph with Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamar Chase, Calvin Ridley, Tim Patrick, Kyle Pitts, and Javonte Williams of the Chargers D. So Solver getting off the beaten path bright and early with this one. You're basically saying for Gibbs and Patrick to hit the way they need to, we need to have a game environment that works, and Mason Rudolph and Calvin Ridley creating the game environment. Sure, that's crazy. Herbert stack at number 2. What is the Solver doing? We're going to see what Stochastic has next. The Solver is getting you really off the beaten path. I think this is the lineup we saw being built right on the optimizer. Herbert, Breece Hall, Dobbins, Tyreek, Ladd McConkey, Fehoko, Evan Ingram, Javonte Williams, Broncos D. I do think pairing Javonte and Broncos D very appealing. Bryce Young starting at QB with no weapons, no Thielen, no Deontay Johnson, so not looking good. Favorite, I don't really have one. I think it's still probably Tillman, but I think he gets owned a little bit more than the ownership has on him. But Tillman's workload should be good. It's just how high does he get owned, given the fact he's a very prominent, obvious value play. But he would be my favorite just because he has to be. If not him, probably Otten. Jalen Hurts, your number 3 ROI lineup. You're getting some Bengal stuff in here, but not the expected Bengal stuff. You're getting Jalen Hurts with Achane, Chase Brown, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So the alpha double here for the Eagles. No Dallas Goedert this week, so that does help a little bit. Jake Bobo. Jake Bobo should be taking most of the DK Metcalf routes, you would think, but not really a good play in the traditional sense. Eric All, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I do like at low ownership. If you're not going to go with one of the chalk big 3 RBs we talked about, Dobbins, Javonte, Breece Hall, and Jets D. Again, Jets D perfectly valid as well, even though they're not like a preferred defense for me. Here's an Aaron Rodgers lineup here. Aaron Rodgers with Derrick Henry, James Conner. So really off the beaten path at RB. Do like that build. Tyreek Hill, our value play. Cedric Tillman, not stacked up. Garrett Wilson stacked up. It's a little bit tough to expect to hit. I don't think the Jets really try to worry about getting him going. If they have to get anybody going today, it's Devontae Adams, and then they're just going to naturally get Breece Hall going because shouldn't be a competitive game or that competitive of a game. And even if it's competitive, it's like that's still Breece Hall territory. David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Falcons D, so double tight end again. Here's a Cousins lineup up top. Cousins with Rashad White. Big change from Friday is Bucky Irving, despite the toe injury. Apparently, it's an injury he's dealt with since college, and he just has to kind of figure it out and play through it. But he's expected to play now. So Rashad White can get work, can get pass game work, can be valid enough through that prism, but no guarantee of that. So Rashad White, not a play I love. DeAndre Swift, you could talk into more in a game script with the Commanders. Maybe Jaden gets hurt again. Maybe he isn't full go as much as we'd hope. DeAndre Swift can get there. Jaden Reed, like him more in a stack, I think, but he's fine enough. Drake London, Darnell Mooney here, stacked up with Cousins in a double. Bring back Rashad White and Evan Ingram, Simi Fehoko. For what I will say for Fehoko, look, nobody in the Chargers pass game really impresses me, but if you see Ladd McConkey ownership, which they're expecting today based on the projections, I think that Fehoko a more logical play, given that Fehoko is playing outside, has better targets, can get there in 1 or 2 plays. I think that works. Henry feels like a trap in a potentially lower scoring divisional game. I don't think it's a trap. I just think the price point's tough. I have no issue going to Henry. I think Henry and Barkley this week, because people concentrating around 7,500 to $6K in salary. You just go to the $8,300, $8,100 guys. That's one way to get off the beaten path. So I have no issue with Henry. I just think it's a tough price point. A Jameis lineup here. Jameis triple. Judy, Tillman, and Njoku feels more like a small field thing, but maybe it gets underplayed in a big tournament. But Jameis with those guys, those 3 guys, Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Javonte Williams, Bills, D. So don't mind those builds. And here's a Jordan Love one, which I'm just going to show you guys because I do like Jordan Love. Romeo Doubs, I feel like he's had like the stickiest squeaky wheel thing for it being 2 weeks of him getting his role seemingly meaningfully improved. Jordan Love with Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Trey Palmer. Do like him this week as well. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, K. Dotton, DeAndre Swift, Seahawks. One thing to point out, too, which I think is kind of spelled out a little bit in this lineup, just because you play Palmer and Otten this week, like you're playing a double here, doesn't mean you have to play Baker. These guys hitting at their price points doesn't mean that Baker Mayfield is going to be hitting at his elevated price point. So I think in this build here, taking the Jordan Love stack with the Bucs stack, but not taking the Bucs QB, to go in headless, I guess people call that now. I think that's a pretty credible approach to go with this week. But let's go Stochastic next. Like that Love lineup. Yeah, I mean, look, I like Love lineups this week are pretty interesting. But you do need Jacksonville. I almost feel like you need a Brian Thomas in there. Maybe a Tank Bigsby. There has to be something showing that Jacksonville's pushing it, because Jordan Love is only going to get there if Jacksonville actually presses things a little bit. But the matchup is really good for Jordan Love to do it. Like, really, if he's going to put up a game like he did versus Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, this is the kind of spot to do it. You just need to see, him have to put up scoring into the game. But like the Jacksonville Jags cannot defend anything defensively in the pass game. So big opportunity theoretically. It's just like if they're running ahead, they're just going to give the ball to Jacobs, going to give the ball to Emmanuel Wilson. And one thing, too, that's got no relevance to slate, but has relevance to the people who've been following me since basketball season. Marshawn Lloyd, if I had to guess, doesn't play until after the Packers bye, with him not getting activated again this week. So that's a bit of a downer, but he's coming at some point, I would guess. But I think they're just going to give him 10 weeks of trying to get healthy. We'll see how it goes, but not helping out teams right now. Didn't go headless this morning. There you go. Like, you coined headless, at least in terms of what I've seen. Don't mind Ingram as a run back. I think he'd be the obvious one. Brian Thomas, I would say second most obvious. Christian Kirk. Nobody's going to play that guy. What was snaps for Kirk at last week? Christian Kirk played 35 snaps last week. For comparison, Brian Thomas played 40. Gabe Davis played 42. Kirk at some point has to have a good game. Feel like him getting open against Packers D that's good. Like, it's possible. Brian Thomas could like brute force his way there, but I think Kirk might be able to find some holes in the defense that the other guys just as route runners probably can't find. Ingram maybe could. All right, so here's our Stochastic sim here. What we're going to do is have it build 10,000 lineups and have them compete 10,000 times. So we'll go also QB by QB here, going through the entire slate after we look at the overall part of it. So 2 big things coming up here. Again, if you appreciate this content, guys, the big value I have that a lot of other channels don't is that I'm not tied to one product here. I get to show you the solver from ETR. I get to show you Stochastic's tools, and both companies kind enough to support me through that. So please subscribe. Please hit the like button. My goal here is to show you what it's like to actually build lineups here in 2024 and 2025, whatever, and show you the best tools, give you the ideas to work off of there. And of course, check out the products too. Stochastic, 15% off. It's the best deal they have for anything going right now. Link in the description. Also pin the chat. The solver as well, link description for that one. 2 great tools to check out and add to your processes if you are, trying to get better at this. Even if you're only doing 20 maxes. Honestly, even if you're only doing like cash games with your friends, I would still want to use data and tools. Like, I mean, for me, I play head against my 2 friends every week, and like I use the biggest cash game or the highest cash game lineup from Stochastic. Like these are little edges here. Try to take advantage of. Implied team total is low, but any interested in Taysom Hill for GPPs at 3,900? Could be getting more usage overall, and Juwan's been limited this week. I would have a hard time going there, to be honest. The team is going the wrong way. He certainly can take snaps away from Rattler more than he did Derek Carr, but I don't like they just haven't played my QB very much. So I don't expect that to be the case. He can get there, not the play for me in a week where you have K-Dot and just looking like a valid play. You have other guys you could pay up to get different at. I wouldn't force my way to it, but I certainly get it. Like you can hit any given week. But the issue is like you can hit any given week. It could also give you 4 points in any given week. Your top ROI lineup right now is Burrow, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. So they still have Higgins in the projection. That's going to fuck things up. Jalen McMillan, David Njoku, K-Dot, and Bengals. Number 2, Caleb Williams. So we're seeing Chicago come in now. We did not see that on Friday. Caleb, Breece Hall, Kareem Hunt, Jaden Reed, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, David Njoku, K-Dot, and Bucks D, your number 2 ROI lineup. Number 3, another one with Higgins. So again, kind of can throw it out a little bit. Burrow, Dobbins, Hunt, Chase, Higgins, Jake Bobo, David Njoku, K-Dot, and Bengals. We got Herbert, Breece Hall, Jake. So you're getting Herbert on here too. That's all right. Got to tell you, after Herbert couldn't hit on a 2-game Monday Night Football slate against a really soft Arizona D, I don't know that going to him against New Orleans is really the move you want to, but he did just bust as somewhat chalk on a public slate, a Monday Night Football doubleheader slate. So I get the logic here, but you have Herbert with Breece Hall, Dobbins, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Ladd McConkey, K-Dot, and Will Dissly and the Jets. And you have Bo Nix, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Tyler Lockett, Ladd McConkey again. Trey Franklin. Bo Nix and Trey Franklin, a top ROI stack. I think Franklin can hit. I've said that. Brock Bowers, Javonte Williams, Raiders. Honestly, this is fun. Take Ladd McConkey out and we're cooking. take Ladd McConkey out, throw him in the trash, downgrade to fucking Cedric Tillman instead and play a better defense than the Raiders. I think that would look a lot better. This is a fun team. Trey Franklin was one catch away from a huge game last week. And granted, I'm in the Trey Franklin bag, but have to say, not a play I'm not interested in. Top ROIs right now, according to Stochastic. Devon Vele, boom. Top ROI player, 19% ROI for him. Tyler Lockett getting a lot more work. People are asking me as well when I put out my data sheet, is Lockett's projection mixed up with JSN? No, like I don't mix up projections. They're just automatically imported. But number 2, Lockett's getting better projections because he hasn't had as high of a role this year. JSN's been out there for as many snaps as he possibly can be. Now Lockett's going to get extra snaps because of Metcalf not being out there. Metcalf, a game time decision, but he's doubtful. He's probably not going to go. So Lockett gets a big boost here. That's that. Big time Trey Franklin spot. If there is such a thing, this is it. It also is like a get well Cortland Sutton spot, but it feels like they're kind of shifting away from him if I had to guess. A K-Dot and 17% ROI for him. Despite all the chalk, he's a top projected ROI player. So K-Dot, and again, don't get cute, I think, with Taysom Hill. I would just play K-Dot instead. Bucks D against Atlanta. I mean, the weird part of playing Bucks D is like for Atlanta to pass as much as you'd want them to, the Bucks would have to be scoring more points, I think, because Kirk Cousins has not been dropping back as much. I mean, since the game they played against the Bucks, he's not dropping back as much because the games aren't as competitive. So Bucks D, it's a little bit odd to see them. You almost have to like pair him with Otten or something for them to have enough opportunity to get to Kirk Cousins to give them the upside. Bo Nix, a 10% ROI for them. Trey Palmer, 9.3. Dobbins, 9.3. So good chalk. Dobbins, it looks like as well. Palmer, look, he can do it in 1 or 2 plays. I think that McMillan seems like he's earned more of a role throughout the course of a year, but Palmer has spiked before while playing alongside Chris Evans or Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and also while acting alongside Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and the Avengers. But no, Trey Palmer, 9.3% ROI. I think it's a solid play. Pivot to Tillman as well. David Njoku, positive ROI despite being chalk, 7.4%. Jets D, Tyreek Hill, Dolphins D, Breece Hall, Javonte. Those are all your top ROI players right now. Let me blow my nose real fast, guys. Pardon me. The never-ending child germs. We have a play date going on above me right now too. One of Lucas' friends from school. One of our friends from Lucas' school. And Alex, a mom that she's been courting for a while. I won't say it too loud in case they can hear me, but she's excited to be friends with this mom. So see how that goes. QB plus 1 stacks. Your top ROI is Bo Nix. Everybody else is negative. So Bo Nix with Trey Franklin, Bo Nix with Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix with Javonte, all in play here and looking like a positive ROI. Otten's a really good chalk, similar to Tucker Kraft chalk play from. I don't think it's similar at all. I would not. I don't agree with any part of that. No respect to Eddie. Eddie, I think, has good takes. Yeah, you really want to hear me blow my nose. I don't like, I think he's a good play. I wouldn't just go set him in and forget it. Like there's ways that he loses this week. It's still about tournaments and trying to win tournaments. So I think Otten's a good play, but like he's really more of like a play him in every cash game line of play. But I would still think around it a little bit in tournaments. Lots of ways he doesn't hit. Bo Nix and to be clear, he could score 13 fantasy points, and that doesn't mean he's winning you a tournament. So like I think he probably gets to his projection no matter what. So in that respect, sure, like he is a solid play. But like there's somebody on the slate can score you 20-25 that's gonna win. Like Johnny Smith last week beat out, good chalk at tight end for the most part. So you just have to keep that in mind with how tournaments go. Bo Nix, QB +2, 18% ROI. So still a top ROI player again for Bo Nix, stacking up with anybody. Geno Smith, 10% ROI. I am low on Buffalo, Seattle. A lot of people out there are not, though. So if you want to go that way, Geno Smith, cheap stack partner as well if you wanted to go the Jake Bobo route. Tua, 6% ROI and a QB +2. Everybody else negative. And the QBs +3. We don't have ROIs for Jaden Daniels. I guess we didn't get any lineups. Jaden triple stack. Didn't get any Bryce Young triple stacked either. High ROIs for Justin Herbert, 31% ROI for Jared Goff, 21% ROI for Bo Nix, 13% for Geno and a QB +3. So the Sims really want you to go QB +3, which never really a great move in tournaments. But with wide receiver pricing being what it is and RB chalk being concentrated, if there were a week to go QB +3, I could see this being the one a little bit more logically because there's just no good projection receiver plays. With Stochastic too, not having Chase and Higgins updated yet or reflecting Chase being in, Higgins being out. That's something too where like they just don't see any player at receiver being I think a breakaway player. But let's look at the top exposures overall because you're getting Tyreek 48%. You're not getting him everywhere. So like that's the only must-have player like the Sims are seeing as receiver. So as a result, you're getting more QB +3 stacks if that all makes sense. K-Dot and 72% exposure overall. So to Eddie's credit, the sim here does think that K-Dot should be getting in more lineups. I still do think that like Njoku beating him out and being the player who works well enough in a lineup too, like that's an outcome that I think is strongly in play. So I'm still not 72% on that. Careful with the hot daycare. I don't know if she's hot. I don't know. It's not the thing. Alex just wants to be friends with her. We're not trying to swing. I appreciate the warning, Jason. 69% exposure. Very nice for Breece Hall here compared to 47% ownership expected. 55% exposure for J.K. Dobbins compared to 24% expected. So Sims like him. Njoku, 49% ownership compared to 23. So the Sims do want you to take the K-Dot in value, but you're still getting a good amount of Njoku. If I had to guess, and we saw it, you're probably getting a lot of them together. Tyreek Hill, 48% exposure compared to 33%. Tyler Lockett, 38% compared to 14%. So Lockett coming in a lot more. Javonte, 38% compared to 26%. So good amount more than the field. Lad McConkey, 21% compared to 14%. And Bo Nix, 19% compared to 12%. So Trey Palmer, you're getting about 3x the field as well. Really clearly defined player pool, if you look at these screens, is what I would say so far. So you want to build a lineup of what Stochastic Sims think is good? It's pretty, I think, easily spelled out here by the groups you're seeing on screen. Let's go through here. Okay. T. Higgins is feeling better 24 minutes ago. All right. So maybe he goes. That's an important one because that one really, to me, that decides if Jamar Chase is chalk or not. Higgins' ownership is coming down by the minutes that he is questionable right now because I woke up to all the reports of him. He's doubtful he's not going to go. And now it's saying he's feeling better. So, there you go. They're all hot daycare moms. Tough time to be McDonald's. To be clear, I don't think I've felt that going to our daycare, but maybe that's the Philadelphia suburban area. All right, we're going to do what we always do here, guys. We're going to go QB by QB. Again, if you appreciate this kind of content, please hit that like button down below. Please subscribe. Your engagements go a long way. Please go subscribe to the Splash Play NBA channel. Again, same process there for NBA, same rigor, same approach that I bring here for NFL. Now bring that same obsession to NBA every day as well. We're back really bringing it to NBA again. My most profitable sport, NBA, even though NFL, my love. It's harder to win the big money. At NBA, I don't think it's quite as hard. Not that, it's easy. But it's not quite as hard. All right, Green Bay. Jordan Love. Let's do it. Your Jordan Love stacks. Oh, maybe clicking away is not the move. All right. Jordan Love, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Reed, Tyler Boyd, Tucker Kraft. That's an odd one to get in there. Tucker Kraft, K-Dot, and Dolphins. Not my favorite stack in the world, but it works. Jordan Love, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Jaden Reed, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, Tucker Kraft. Can we get one with a bring back? I really do think you need a bring back from Jacksonville for Love to work. Here's a QB +2 with one bring back. Jordan Love, Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Reed, Trey Palmer, Evan Ingram, Tucker Kraft, and Bucks D. I don't feel like I need Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft coming along for the ride in all of these doesn't fill me with joy. If you're going to play Tucker Kraft, Maybe the second part of a stack works, but not like dying for Tucker Kraft here. All right, there's not a lot of bringbacks. So the Sims do not like a bringback on Jordan Love. I don't see how he hits the ceiling without a bringback, but the Sims don't agree with me. Jordan Love with Brees, Dobbins, Dobbs, Lockett, Christian Kirk, Njoku, Otten, Charters. I like this one. This is a fun one to me. Double tight end, not my favorite to play in tournaments usually, especially when these guys were such chalk as they're going to be. But nobody's going to play Christian Kirk. I think Dobbs, again, has proven the workload since he did complain. Like, he's now getting targeted like an X receiver, who thinks they're good or is good, should be targeted. So I think that build appeals to me a little bit more. Sims seem to dad the? Well, I don't know if these are wise words, but yeah. Sims seem to dad the. I agree. Sims do seem to dad the. All right, Trevor Lawrence builds. Of course, my Battle Royale entry got fucking forced to take a Trevor Lawrence. Wasn't happy about it. Green Bay, really tough defense. We've seen Green Bay, again, shut down much better QBs like CJ Stroud. So I don't know that I want to go to Trevor Lawrence. I just want to target a guy who's going to give enough production to make Jordan Love a better QB play. But Trevor Lawrence, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Tyreek, Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, Ingram, K-Dot, and Bucks. That's a clean-looking team. I don't love Trevor Lawrence as a player. That's a clean stack to add on to good players, chalk players who are getting less owned. I like that build more than I would have thought. Trevor Lawrence with Breece Hall, Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Brian Thomas Jr., Trey Palmer, and Njoku, Ingram, Dolphins. That's also pretty nice. Lawrence, Breece, Dobbins, Tyreek, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, and Njoku. Honestly, you could just play all the chalk with Trevor Lawrence stacks and could feel like you need a Green Bay player with it. Because, that's, again, how Green Bay's going to hit their upside is Jacksonville doing enough. Lawrence, Bijan, Josh Jacobs, Diggs, Brian Thomas Jr., Boyd. I don't want to get to Tyler Boyd. Lawrence, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Jaden Reed, Christian Kirk, Tim Patrick, Otten, Dobbins, Lions. The bringbacks aren't quite as fun. These ones up top, though, just play a Lawrence double and you can play all the chalk and not feel that bad about it. Fade the bringback. There he goes. Okay, not dad the. We got it. All right, next QB up. Jets, Aaron Rodgers, 24 implied points today. Not a preferred stack, but it hitting with Devontae Adams I think wouldn't be crazy. We got a Garrett Wilson lineup up top, though. Rodgers, Breece Hall, Javonte, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Njoku, K-Dot, and Bucks. Adams might not project well enough. Oh, here we go. He's in the second one. Rodgers, Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Trey Palmer, and Njoku, Otten, Jets. So I like going Adams and fading Breece Hall a little bit because I think you're saying Devontae Adams takes those red zone touchdowns away. Adams then a lever against Breece Hall. Leone flag planted Adams. Okay. I think they should get him going. I think they have to get him going. Ridley, sneaky or just stupid? I don't think either. I think he's sneaky. I don't think he's stupid either. He should concentrate work. The issue is it's Mason Rudolph work. Mason Rudolph, to his credit, did prop up George Pickens pretty well down the home stretch last year, but the Tennessee offense is so bad. I don't know that I have a lot of faith in it, but he's going to be 10 to 15% owned if I guess. So that's sort of the downside of Ridley, but I don't think he's a bad play. These builds don't do a lot for me, to be honest. Drake May builds. We can do this fast. Drake May, Derrick Henry, none of these in the top 150 ROI lineups right now. Drake May, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson, Ladd McConkey, Pop Douglas, Hunter Henry, Brock Bowers, Ravens. I really don't want Garrett Wilson. Do like to stack and bring back. That's that. Kenneth Walker being overlooked today seems too easy. It's really not a great match against Buffalo. I still like Walker enough, but he's kind of priced weirdly. That game environment doesn't do as much for me as other people. That doesn't mean it's a bad one, but I'm a little bit lower on it than some people are. So I'm not huge on it overall. And I think the offense gets a little bit less good with Metcalf in there. I would say Walker probably gets more volume, but I don't know that it's higher quality volume. I don't know if they get in the red zone as much without Leone or without Leone. I don't think they get in the red zone without Leone, but I don't know if they get it without Metcalf either. Leone loves olds. He probably has lemon party bookmark. That's unfair, but he does love projectable players, which, that's a data guy. You get it. Anyway, I don't think we need to look at Drake May more. That's enough. The other guy, Steve, had asked about Kyler Murray before. Let's look at him now. Don't have a lot of love for Kyler in this matchup against Miami, but theoretically, Miami should have put up production, so that works. Miami's defense, though, has been good on the year. Getting Kyler with Breece Hall, Chuba, Drake London, Tyler Lockett, Ladd McConkey, Trey McBride, K-Dot, and Panthers. Meh. Kyler, Dobbins, Tony Pollard, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Harrison, McConkey, McBride, Otten, Titans. Meh. Murray, Mixon, Brees Hall, Tyreek, Lockett, Palmer, McBride, Otten, Jets. I feel like you really would need Harrison and McBride to hit for Murray to score enough. I mean, he can run in like a 50-yard touchdown like he did last week. He could work with a single. I don't think a single does enough for me here. I feel like it would have to be a good double. And I mean, it would be this one, I guess, but we had Ladd McConkey with that. And Pollard. So I just didn't like that lineup. Let's go to Tua lineups. Tua back in action. Not wearing a Guardian cap, which, by the way, Guardian caps are low-key kind of overrated based on the data. So I'm whatever. I don't think he's crazy about it, even though people act like he's a maniac. Sneaky Kyler rushing week. I don't think so. Miami gives up a negative 0.07 EPA per QB rush. So one of the best QB rushing defenses out there. Pretty much every QB rush is inherently positive EPA, an efficient play. So the fact that he's been giving up negative, doesn't mean that Kyler can't hit with the workload he's got. He's running. He's only running 5 times a game, actually. He's not running as much as you think. I don't think it's a spot to try to target that. Tua spot, though, I think you could target that. Tua with Mixon, Swift. If you're going to play Tyreek, I think doing a Tua stack would be the better way to do it. Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle, David Njoku, K-Dot, and Dolphins. So you're getting some new Bills in here. Double stack with Tua. It's okay. Double stack with Tua can probably hit more than it did last year just because of the fact, again, Tyreek doesn't get targeted quite as much as he did last year. So I would say Tyreek getting targeted with Waddle makes some amount of sense. Tua, Chuba, Achane, Hill, Reed, Lockett, and Njoku, Otten, Dolphins. So another double stack with Tua. Tua's only going to make it with a double or triple, it looks like. Tua with Dobbins, Javonte, Amon-Ra, Hill, Waddle, Otten, McMillan, Dolphins. Tua build's not bad. Anyone with a bring back here, just out of curiosity? Here's a 2-1. Tua, Derrick Henry, Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Boyd, McBride, Otten, and Ravens. There you go. You're suggesting wearing a baby bonnet over your helmet is not helpful. To be clear, it's not the baby bonnet. It's what's underneath. They put the bonnet to cover up like the weird ridges of it. But yes, I guess it is technically a baby bonnet on top of the helmet. But no, like the Guardian cap now, there's like 5 different types of helmets now that actually prevent concussions more than a Guardian cap does. But Guardian caps, because it got the branding early on, people knew that. Every lineup has double tight end with all the wide receiver value. I wouldn't say every lineup, but a good amount of them. Anyway, those are your 2-1 lineups. Joyful Mason Rudolph lineups like ETR did have, or the solver, and Mason Rudolph, top ROI player. So see what we have with Stochastic. High ROIs here too. Rudolph with Mixon, Dobbins, Tyreek, Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Kelsey, Swift, Bears. I don't see how Mason Rudolph has tournament winning upside, but sure. Rudolph with Hall, Bijan, Drake London, Tyreek, Ridley, Njoku, Chig, Jets. Chig's workload's shit. Mason Rudolph with Brees Hall, Dobbins, Amon-Ra, Tyreek, Boyd, McBride, Otten, Bucks. I think you're sneaking up on the Ridley stacks if you go with Boyd, but it's hard to love that. Rudolph with Brees, Dobbins, Amon-Ra, Hill, Ridley, Chig, Boyd, Jets. A triple stack with Mason Rudolph. Oof. Not the hill I'd want to die on personally. Jared Goff up next. 28 implied points for Detroit. Yet Detroit not going to be owned very much. Nobody above 10% projected ownership here. We got Goff with Brees, Chase Brown, Amon-Ra, Tim Patrick, Palmer, Njoku, Dobbins, Bucks. It's okay. I don't love it. Goff with Bijan, Achane, Amon-Ra, Lockett, Patrick, Njoku, Laporta, Falcons, triple stack. Could Tim Patrick really hit? I don't know if I'm buying that. Tim Patrick's workload underlying is not that great. 15.7% target per out run, 11.3 air yards per target. He probably absorbs the Jameson role, but doesn't do as much with it. I don't think Tim Patrick's actually a good play. He can hit, but I don't think he's like a good play. Number 3 ROI is Patrick as well. Can we get one without Tim Patrick, maybe? All these fucking lines have Tim Patrick besides this one. Goff, Brees, Chase Brown, Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill, Trey Palmer, and Njoku, K-Dot, and Bucks. So that's one. I could play that. Don't want Tim Patrick coming along for the ride, though. Lamar stacks. Baltimore 26.8 implied points here. Let's do that. Let's mute the spam and chat. Could be Laporta week. It's not a great tight end matchup. I mean, it certainly can be with some vacated targets. Laporta's just not getting targeted very much when he's out there. A 13% target per out run rate. He would need to flip. Amon-Ra was getting targeted like 3 times as much. So that's sort of the pain point of Laporta. He's just not getting used the same way as he did last year. Pardon me while I blow my nose one more time. Nothing better. Nothing better than feeling mucusy here on a fine October day. Lamar Jackson, Breece Hall, Javonte, Tyreek Hill, Zay Flowers, Tim Patrick. Get out of here, Tim Patrick. David Njoku, K-Dot, and Bucks D. Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs, J.K. Dobbins, Flowers, Lockett, Bateman, Schultz, Ott, and Ravens. Why would Schultz be getting in that one? That's odd. Lamar with Breece, Javonte, Zay Flowers, Lockett, McConkey, Njoku, Ott, and Seahawks. These are all Zay dominant builds. Lamar, Breece Hall, Dobbins, Zay, Lockett, Trey Palmer, and Njoku, Otten, Chargers. Look, I feel like you should get Mark Andrews in here a little bit more. Mark Andrews has a great red zone role, if not like a good, between the 20s role. It seems these Lamar stacks, though, don't do a lot for me. Jameis stacks, the one everybody wants to see. We got Jameis with Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins. None of them in the top 150 ROIs either, so maybe sim players don't play Jameis quite as much. Jameis, Breece Hall, Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Reed, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Otten Jets. So a double stack, pretty simple here. The rest of the lineup is chalk. This honestly might get duped a little bit more than it would seem. Jameis, Breece Hall, Javonte, Tyreek, Amari Cooper, former Brown stack. Jerry Jeudy, Trey McBride, and Njoku Bills. You're not getting a lot of Tillman up top. Here's one with Tillman, though. Winston, Mixon, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. I just don't want Garrett Wilson in a lineup. Lockett, Tillman, Njoku, Javonte, and Texans. That's okay. Jameis lineup's not that great either. I think you could probably make better Jameis lineups than the Solver, just like hand build some stuff out. But the auto ones here on Stochastic, to me, not the most appealing overall. And again, Cleveland only 18.3 implied points. So should you really be playing Winston? I think is a question that's perfectly valid. Campbell did mention playing Allen Robinson, but I like he could play him. He's probably not going to play more than Tim Patrick no matter what. We got Cousins, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Trey Palmer, and Njoku, Pitts, Jets. You're getting a triple stack, basically saying Tampa Bay puts up enough points here. Trey Palmer being a big part of that. The whole stack hitting feels kind of like something that somebody would build based off of the fact that Atlanta put up a lot of points and a lot of yardage the last time they played the Bucs. Of course, that was a game that Cousins went for 500 yards. But I don't really think you need a triple with Cousins to get unique here. This one with a double, maybe more logical. Cousins, Breece Hall, Kareem Hunt, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, McMillan, McBride, Njoku, Cardinals. I don't mind that. Honestly, these Cousins lineups are kind of fun. You're getting a bring back on all of them too, which I like. They're setting up the game environment correctly because you need the Bucs to do something for for Cousins to hit his ceiling. The Bucs have to be competitive in doing something in that game. Baker stack should be fun. I think Baker ones might end up like the Trevor Lawrence ones. A Baker triple here with Breece Hall, Dobbins, Amon-Ra, Hill, McMillan, Otten, Palmer, Dolphins D. I don't know if I see Dolphins D hitting, but it's possible. Double the bring back here of Baker Mayfield, Henry, Bijan. So you're getting really good RBs in and fading sort of the chalk plays besides Dobbins. Lockett, Ladd McConkey. See, this is where it falls apart. Trey Palmer, K-Dot, and J.K. Dobbins, Ravens. Baker Mayfield, Breece Hall, Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Reed, McMillan, Otten, Bowers, Raiders. It's okay. Baker stacks were starting builds this week. You get it. Don't get the Jameis love. I know they are cheap, but Brown's team total is 18. People are ignoring the team total because of the fact that Jameis has had a huge upside and does create stack partner value. I think you're better off trying to just take the players as one-offs, probably. Take a one-off Tillman, take a one-off Jeudy, take a one-off Njoku, and try to hope that they hit the upside. But I think people are just looking for the old days of Baker. Or for Jameis, rather, which I think is something we talk about a lot, where people like guys who've done something for 5 years, people just file away like, this guy can always do that. And in reality, Jameis, new offensive coordinator, certainly Ken Dorsey calling the plays. With how he played for Buffalo last year, it was a high pass rate team. So I think there's a shot there. But again, like you mentioned, like Eddie mentioned, the low team total, the fact that Jameis, we know he can be turnover prone. The fact, too, that, again, they didn't really want to play him, I think is really not the best thing overall. We got Indianapolis up next. AR, nobody's going to own him. So if you want to play him this week, you can. Projections, though, really don't support much of this. AR, Breece Hall, Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, Pittman, Ladd McConkey, and Njoku, Otten, Chargers. Well, I like McConkey coming along for the party and all this. Really, it just doesn't work for me. Richardson, Henry, Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, Pittman, Bobo, Otten, Javante, Ravens. Here when we get a Houston player as a bring back, but it's only Dalton Schultz. AR with Brees Hall, Javante, Tyreek Hill, Pittman, Lockett, and Njoku, Schultz, Dolphins. I feel like I want to Tank Dell. I want to Diggs. Don't really think that's it. Stroud lineups. Stroud lineups going against the Colts secondary should have a shot at the upside you need to have. And honestly, I think they can hit without a Colts bring back because like with how bad Houston played in the past game last week, this has to be a spot that you just try to get that right and try to show that you're not a disaster. So I think that's it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to remove McConkey. It's just, this is what Stochastic is giving you. That's what the show is. Stroud, Brees Hall, Dobbins, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell, Lad McConkey again. Schultz, K-Dot, and Texans. And also, look, if the sim tells you Lad McConkey's a good play, he's probably a good play. I just don't like him. Stroud, J.K. Dobbins, Javante, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Lockett, Schultz, Otten, Seahawks. I think the Diggs, Tank Dell ones will appeal me the most. Stroud with Hall, Javante, Diggs, and Tank, Trey Palmer, Trey McBride, K-Dot, and Jets. This one's kind of fun. I would play that. Is Jameis a low-key moron? I think he's a high-key moron. Brought in Dalton a couple years ago and played him over Jameis, who definitely had the system familiarity. He makes a lot of mistakes. He thinks he's a better player than he is. He also, like, the locker room always loves him. But, you know, he's been a dumb guy. Even, like, the sexual assault stuff, even the crab leg stuff. Like, he's just not the sharpest guy in the world. But I think that's part of the issues. He doesn't progress and doesn't process defenses correctly. That's why teams don't end up wanting to start him too much. But, you know, against the Ravens, that could be a real problem. And that's part of why I would guess he has a low team total. Philadelphia, 22.5 implied points for them. Stroud plus Dell plus Schultz plus JT. I wouldn't do the JT part of that. And also, I don't like Schultz that much, to be honest. Schultz is okay. I would just go Dell and Diggs personally, but you know, that's me. Let me go Jalen Hurts here. All right, we got Hurts, Hunt, Javante, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, K-Dot, and Trey Palmer Bucks. We got Hurts, Kareem Hunt, Javante, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Boyd, and Njoku, Otten Browns. These aren't that fun. Here's one with the bring back. Jalen Hurts, Brees Hall, Javante, AJ Brown, Higgins. Again, if Higgins is going to go. Tim Patrick, and Njoku, K-Dot, and Browns D. Really not. It's not a clearly defined AJ Brown matchup. Cincinnati doesn't play man at that high of a rate. I really don't love Philadelphia stacks. I wish I did. The Burrow side of the equation, one people are going to love today. Cincinnati 25 implied points. Maybe get 2 R's in. Burrow, Dobbins, Javante, Jamar Chase, Higgins, McMillan, and Njoku, Otten, and Bengals. Burrow, Dobbins, Hunt, Chase, Higgins, Bobo, and Njoku, Otten, and Bengals. Burrow, Dobbins, Hunt, Chase, Higgins, Palmer, and Njoku, Eric All, and Chiefs. At least that one feels a little bit different. I don't know why you're getting Burrow sacks with the defense. That's on it. Khalif Raymond, valid enough as a play. He's not going to come up as much as Cade Otton or Tillman or Tim Patrick, but I think he's one of those guys that's in that range. You can play him for sure. Hard to love him. I think it's a revenge game for him too, which doesn't really matter, but he's a fine enough play, not a priority for me or anything. Josh Allen lineups coming up next. 24.3 implied points for them. Favorite punt tight end is Philadelphia Cincinnati game, and it's not Calcaterra. Is it Eric All? Sure. Eric All gets routes. I wouldn't play him personally. Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, K-Dot, and Dalton Kincaid, Bears. Allen, Mixon, Swift, Cooper, McConkey, Tim Patrick, Kincaid, Kelsey, Bears. Allen, Hall, Dobbins, Amari Cooper, Lockett, Tim Patrick, K-Dot, and Kelsey, Chargers. These teams have like no feel to them. Yeah, Allen teams don't do it for me. Feels like Barkley's a better way to play Philly and skip stacks like you're saying, Spags. Yeah, I think Barkley's an interesting play this week. He's not going to get owned as much as he would normally. And frankly, in this kind of game too, he could get a little bit more pass game work. That's that. Eric All, come on down. It feels to me more like a showdown play, to be honest, or an afternoon, like early. It's like short slate play. It can hit. Geno Smith lineups. Oh, didn't mean to pull that up again. And honestly, Gamblestein does come up with some low-owned gems sometimes, so not to belittle him at all. I just like the Eric All thing. I feel like on this slate, you have You have some really obvious good plays. I would try to play the really obvious good plays. Like I would go to Kelsey. I'd go to Bowers over that if you want to get away from the chalk. I just wouldn't go like super thin at tight end, but again, anything can hit. Geno Smith, Brees Hall, Tony Pollard, Tyreek Hill, JSN, Lockett, Njoku, K-Dot, and Dolphins. You're not getting a lot of one-off JSN. You're getting a lot of one-off Lockett. So getting JSN in the stack with Geno makes some sense. Geno, Gibbs, Brees Hall, JSN, Lockett, McMillan, Njoku, Javonte Bucks. Geno with Brees Hall, Dobbins, JSN, Lockett, McConkey, Otten, Javonte, Jets. One thing I'd worry about with the Seahawks is like Jake Bobo, don't think he takes over the DK Metcalf route tree and does a lot with it, but I do think he can take a touchdown away. Like he's been a touchdown hound even when playing as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. So him being out there for every snap, he might take a touchdown away from Lockett or JSN that like they really needed. Don't think it's a guarantee or anything, but I think it's certainly a possibility. New Orleans, do we even have to look at Rattler lineups? I would say probably don't play these no matter what. A Rattler, none of these in the top 150 ROI is not a surprise. Rattler with Brees Hall, Javonte, Tyreek, Chris Olave, Lockett, Otten, Travis Kelce, Jets. A Rattler with Brees Hall, Dobbins, Hill, Olave, Waddle, Otten, Bowers, Raiders. Possible Fant gets a sneaky boost with Metcalf out. A little bit of a boost. I wouldn't expect it to change his outlook materially. Rattler lineups, I don't think you should play them. Maybe they have a 1 in 1% chance of winning your tournament, but go ahead. If you want to grab those, follow your heart. Not for me. Herbert stacks, I also frankly wouldn't want to play, but with all the ownership going to Dobbins, I get it. That said, again, softer defense, same situation of Monday Night Football in a 2-gamer, and Herbert stacks, I mean, I guess could have hit theoretically. He put up enough yardage, but wasn't good yardage. Herbert, Brees Hall, Dobbins, A.J. Brown, Hill, McConkey, Otten, Disley, Jets. I also still think the Saints put up enough points to like make Herbert pass. So these lineups to me, I just wouldn't play. Herbert, Brees Hall, Dobbins, Hill, Jaden Reed, Lad McConkey, Njoku, Disley, Jets. Disley, I don't mind as a tight end pivot. You want to talk about a cheap pivot? I'd go to him. He's getting targeted 55% of the time he's running a route on the year, right? 57.8% of the time. Disley's running a route. He's getting targeted so far, which can't hold, but with how he played last game, it might. Charger stacks just would not be it for me. Caleb Williams stacks up next. Chicago, 23 implied points, 1-point favorites on the road. Caleb, Brees, Kareem Hunt, Jaden Reed, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, David Njoku, Cade Otten, Bucks D, Caleb Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Njoku, Cade Otten, Dolphins, Caleb Williams, Gibbs, Hall, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Lockett, Njoku, Cade Otten, Bears. I don't mind these builds. Should be able to pass all over the Commanders, I would think. God, I'm just fucking dying here today. Commanders, I think, soft matchup. Caleb going against Jaden's going to help him out too because he'll press the action a little bit more. I think Caleb stacks really overlooked, and being willing to play him in different configurations, I think, appeal to me a bunch. Jaden stacks, none of them in top 150 ROIs, so it's not chalk. If this is the week that you get the true upside for Jaden, it would be out of left field. Nobody's going to be playing it. I will tell you, in the 20 max, I'll be playing some Jaden this week. Jaden, Brees Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Lad McConkey, Judy, Noah Brown, David Njoku, Javonte, and Jets. Noah Brown, I have to say, I keep putting him in lineups, and it never hits. And granted, last week, Jaden getting hurt certainly hurt the outlay of that. I'd rather have McLaurin single stack, I think, because that's not going to be played that much anyway. But Jaden, Pollard, Achane, Hill, McLaurin, Fehoko, Zach Ertz, Javonte, Titans. You're having to play some ugly players to play Jaden, huh? Noah Brown makes this one. Jaden with Brees Hall, Hunt, Tyreek, Ray, Noah Brown, and Njoku, Swift, Falcons. Can we get one with McLaurin in a good bring back? This one has Lad McConkey in it. Jaden with Taylor, Swift, McLaurin, Lad McConkey, Palmer, and Njoku, Javonte Browns. Swift is a bring back I could live with. Would prefer a receiver. Yeah, getting Swift is the only bring back. These are not the most appealing lineups, but I'm going to try to build some stuff with Solver that makes me feel better personally. Patrick Mahomes stacks, if you want to go with the revenge for Kermit. We got Patrick Mahomes with Mixon, Brees Hall, Hill, McConkey, Palmer, Kelsey, Noah Gray, Chiefs. Both tight ends I just wouldn't play. Mahomes, Dobbins, Javonte, Tyreek, Lockett, McConkey, Kelsey, Noah Gray, Chiefs. No, I don't want to play Kelsey and Noah Gray. That doesn't make any sense to me. Mahomes, Dobbins, Javonte, Garrett Wilson, Lockett, McConkey, Cade Otten, Kelsey, Chargers. Sure. I feel like I'd want the QB +2. I would give a shot to DeAndre Hopkins under 5K. Like he can score 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't be crazy. Here's one with both the guys. Where did that go? Mahomes, Dobbins, Javonte, Lockett, Jalen Waddle, Hopkins, and Njoku, Kelsey, Chargers. So you're getting direct leverage on Tyreek. You're taking the Lockett, Sim chalk at the very least. I think it's good. Didn't DJ Moore go absolutely nuclear last year versus Commanders? I don't recall that. Sure, maybe. Doesn't really matter. Minshew stacks. He busted his chalk last week. He's not really good, and the Lions should win by 10 points. That's probably the reasons. Minshew, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Trey Palmer, and Njoku, Bowers, Bears. Minshew, Gibbs, Javonte, Lockett, Jalen Waddle, Jacoby Myers, McBride, Bowers, Broncos. I think with a bring back would work better. Minshew, Kareem Hunt. I like Kareem Hunt a lot this week. I think if you're going to not play one of the top RBs, Hunt's as good as those guys, potentially. Javonte, Drake London, T. Higgins, Jacoby Myers, and Njoku, Bowers, Falcons. If it weren't Gardner Minshew, I would say these Minshew stacks kind of pop for me. Minshew, Bijan, Hunt, Tyreek, Jaden Reed, Jacoby Myers, Otten, Bowers, Dolphins. These are all fun. Too bad Minshew's dog shit, but that's that. We got one more game here, and then we can call it quits. One day I'll time this video out perfectly. It'll end at 10 o'clock, and I'll be feeling good about it, but we're not there yet. Bryce Young stacks. Got to spend a lot of time here. Not a single one with a positive ROI. Poor Bryce Young. Bryce Young, Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Leggett, Jalen Coker, Kelsey, Hall, Chargers. Boy, if Bryce were to hit this week, fucking, you would be all alone on an island. I don't think he can hit. Broncos a good team. Bryce Young, I don't think they fixed him in 6 weeks. So that's the risk point of it. But a 1-1 QB stacked up with a bring back. Bryce Young, Dobbins, Swift, Chase, Diggs, Coker, K-Dot, and Javonte Williams, Chargers. The Coker part still feels a little trappy, but he should get more work. Like it, though, taking a leap here without Deontay would not be the craziest thing in the world for me. Hard to trust, though, with all these being negative ROIs. It's basically that. And Bo Nick stacks, last but not least. Saw this one up top. Bo Nix, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Lockett, McConkey, Troy Franklin, Brock Bowers, Javonte, and Raiders. Got Knicks with Breece Hall, Dobbins, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Devon Vele, Njoku, K-Dot, and Jets. Knicks with Mixon, Dobbins, DJ Moore, Lockett, Vele, McBride, Javonte Williams, Bears. Knicks with Breece Hall, Dobbins, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, Ladd McConkey, K-Dot, and really just fucking get out of here, Ladd McConkey. Can we take Ladd McConkey out? That's what I would ask that. I would also ask, can we reach 50 likes? But can we take out Ladd McConkey first? But yes, please, guys. At one point, we had like 200 people watching. So please, for the love of God, hit the like button here. Again, this is just me trying to build up a channel here, showing my work here on stream every day. That's the work. Of course, Monday, showdown video. Tuesday, my best ball review video. Thursday's another showdown. Friday, main slate preview. And of course, Sundays at 9 a.m. I do this work here, the final takes video, going game by game, QB by QB, looking at it all. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Please go check out the Splash Play NBA channel. Go subscribe on there, because starting tomorrow, I will be putting out content every day live at 4 p.m. again for the NBA slate. So we'll have a good amount of data for them as well. Of course, we're looking at prop betting, but check that out in the chat. I will leave in the pinned comments too. At Splash Play NBA coming up tomorrow. Of course, Stochastic, 15% off. Support the show by using that discount. Link in the description, or use promo code SPLASH on Stochastic to do that. The Solver, link in the description as well for that if you want to go take advantage of the Solver. Use that tool, build better lineups. Underdog, same thing as well. $1,000 in bonus cash on there. The best bonus cash deal you'll find. And of course, join the channel as well. You get a VIP Discord. You get my data sheet. You get a premium video every Friday for me going game by game, looking at all the advanced analytics, talking about stuff that might matter. So a video adds value from what I hear from you guys. So make sure to check it out. And of course, thank you to all these fine folks who supported the channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Of course, gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time here. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video for the showdown. Of course, NBA at 4 p.m. Lots coming out for me tomorrow. So see you guys for that one then. Enjoy your weekends. And of course, good luck. And hey, thanks for hanging out, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.